troopresource.org, trying to put 1,000 skills into every troop's backpack.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the January 2019 Troop Resource Show. Tonight we have with us, of course, Randy, the man, Hardy.
Hi, everybody.
And we have our guest speaker, Todd Shaner.
Hello.
And tonight's topic is going to be the wood badge. Actually, it was Todd's wood badge. Wait. Hold on. Randy wants to say something. Okay, Randy.
Wait a minute. I thought it was... Woodbridge. I thought you said Woodbridge. I was all pumped up. I got cheese and crackers to go along.
Cheese and crackers, Randy.
Yes, cheese and crackers. To go along with a really nice
I think that's great.
Pinot Noir Woodbridge.
I think you ought to...
I think they pair very well together. I was pumped. It wasn't going to be another one of these Todd stick in the mud talks. But apparently, I have egg on my face again. Oh well, nothing to do but have a piece of cheese. Well,
You quite done? Talking with food in your mouth. We could teach you a thing or two.
Well, I think we ought to pop that Woodbridge. You ought to be squeak, squeak. Right? So tell me about...
Okay.
Wood badge.
So let's. I know your viewers may not be or may not have seen the session you did a few months ago with George Whitmire, the Cradle of Liberty Council training chair, I believe his title is.
Right.
He talked about wood badge. So if I could, I'll just kind of give your viewers a refresher of what it is. It's first off, you're watching this because you're part of Scouts. And I'm going to start off by asking Randy and Scott a question and put them on the hook.
Okay.
Think about what it would be like for you to teach somebody a skill that you had never experienced.
Impossible.
Huh?
Impossible.
It's impossible?
Impossible.
I get asked that all the time.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm basically an IT trainer.
Okay.
And someone will say, we need someone to teach on XYZ software. We'd like you to do it. Jaw drops.
Right.
I tell them it's going to take time because I got to go research the product. I've got to learn it to double the depth that they want me to teach it. And I have to do that before I can teach it.
So, Randy, you're a man of the world, so it probably never happened to you. But if it would, just use your imagination and think about what that would be like. If it would, it's unlike you.
I thought he said wood badger. I've heard of the honey badger, but never a wood badger.
We'll get to badgers in a little while.
Okay, stop badgering me.
But think about what that would be like if you had to teach a skill to someone.
Yeah, no.
You had no knowledge of what it was. Now, you are both
YouTube. I would go to YouTube. That's what I would do. I'd go to YouTube.
Okay, good answer. You are both assistant scoutmasters in the troop. Correct?
Yes.
Correct.
You have a daunting responsibility to teach young men
We do.
a variety of things. Correct?
Yes.
Now, I think George talked about this, that there's certain skills in Boy Scouts that we have training for, and we teach you. You can learn in Boy Scouts, it's the Introduction to Outdoor Leadership Skills,
Right.
IOLS. In Cub Scouts, it's BLUE, Basic Adult Leader Outdoor Orientation. It teaches you those basics that you can then impart. But one of the key tenets of Boy Scouts is leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you learn your leadership? And how many assistant scoutmasters do we just have in our troop? And how varied are their backgrounds?
Right.
How varied are their leadership experiences? And how varied are their teaching mechanisms to impart that? You've probably seen it. You've seen some guys and women are good, and some maybe not so good.
Not so good, right.
And you're both, just like I am, putting your sons in that situation with people to teach them. You want to know that they're being taught, right?
Yep. So now I get why you took Wood Badge. You wanted to learn how to teach people how to be leaders, and you had no skill set whatsoever.
That's a great leader, man. You're absolutely right. And for someone like me or you that has no historical background in leadership. Or anything at all, you need to be taught. This is fun. I like this. So that's where Wood Badge comes in, and what in a nutshell, what Wood Badge does is it takes adults who are associated with the scouting program and walks them through a multi-day training program that walks them through all the steps of being a Boy Scout. And you get all those experiences. You do a little knot tying, yeah you do, but you go through all the pieces from an entry-level scout, even in Cub Scouts, and work your way up through to cross over into Boy Scouts, and then be a Boy Scout, and ultimately finish through as you don't get ranks, but you walk through. And what it does along the way, there's underlying lessons that are taught in everything that we do. We don't just teach boys how to tie knots, but we teach boys how to teach other boys and young men how to tie knots. So there's a learning development aspect to it, and leadership along the way.
Right.
So what the Wood Badge does is it takes the adults in the program and walks them through over the course of these days all those steps. So you get to experience what it's like to be a scout in the program and being on the receiving end of what it's like to have either good or bad leadership above you. The way the Wood Badge is structured is the personnel administering the course are essentially there's a scoutmaster, the air quotes scoutmaster, and a variety of other positions, on down to the senior patrol leader who's running the entire course. That's the way a Boy Scout troop, a scout troop is supposed to operate. The scouts are supposed to lead it. I'll tell you in a few moments about what I've done after Wood Badge, which is where I think you want to go. But one of the things I do in a lot of communications I give to folks is folks in scouting are very familiar with Cub Scouts, and then they're also familiar with Boy Scouts. In Cub Scouts, where is the term leader, the title leader, where is that imposed?
On the adults.
It's always the adult.
Correct, in Cub Scouts. Where is it in Boy Scouts?
It'd be on the SPL and ASPL and patrol leaders.
Correct. Folks, that's a little nuance, but that's significant. That as you progress as a scout through the ranks, you take on the leadership roles and responsibilities. And we try to impart that in our troop. We give that responsibility. We enable, we empower our scouts to do that. And that's in a thing called a boy-led troop or a scout-led troop.
Right.
Where they really own it. Wood Badge will walk you through what it's like to experience that and to take that ownership. And
from the boys' perspective.
From the boys' perspective.
Yeah.
And we have to say from the scouts' perspective.
Scouts' perspective now. That's right.
Thanks, Randy.
And it is January, so it's February this all goes into effect.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Correct? I believe so.
This is where you take out the uhs, right? So what I wanted to talk about was is good? Good.
Namaste.
So you talked about wood badgering before.
Yes,
and I can wood badger you a little bit. I didn't bring my wood stick, but I'll wood badge you later. We have
this is the part where you get to the real Todd.
in one of the uniquenesses of Wood Badge is the leadership skills and the experience you get is unlike any other Boy Scout training. We train scouts, we train adults for unique one-off type of things. We train them for first aid that hopefully you don't have to use, safe swim defense, weather hazards,
safety afloat.
Safety afloat, you pick it. But
Safe
it's very
climb.
specific. Safe climbing, right.
Climbing
Wood
this
Badge,
weekend, by the way.
yeah, good. Wood Badge encompasses those things, but also it takes it to another level because the leadership skills that are taught at Wood Badge are universal skills. There are examples and elements within it that I've experienced in leadership training where I work. There's the same type of examples. It was kind of neat to see them as they popped up because I knew what the answer was when it came time. But
of course you did.
Is there a mute button here?
That should be a Randy mute.
There should be, yeah.
One of those easy buttons.
But so Randy and I think when I watched the session you guys did with George Whitmire, you mentioned something. You said you thought it was kind of like the adult Eagle Scout.
I think I did. Yes,
I think you did too because I watched it and I heard your voice and saw your face move.
I didn't watch it. I'm not a narcissist. Good. I don't watch my own.
So people do call it an adult Eagle Scout, and it's for good reason because it does give you all those leadership skills. There's also an 18-month component to it, which I'll also talk about in a moment. Once you finish all the practical part, you have 18 months to go and work your ticket, which I'll
you must not have a lot going on in your life that you can devote 18 months to something like that.
No, I at the time that I took it, I didn't.
Okay.
That was before I knew you, right? So
leave no trace.
So in the last part of the curriculum, and we're bouncing around. I'll try to land this plane here, but at the last part of the curriculum, throughout the curriculum, you're broken into patrols, just like we do in Scouts, and they're all given critter names. There's owl and fox and bear and badger. I happen to be a Bob White. I have never seen a Bob White. I didn't know what a Bob White was before I got there, but
it's a quail.
I are one. Yes, it is a quail. All right. So I found that out. Thank you. You're good. So the basic skills, the universal skills that I talk about are things like team building. There's conflict resolution. There's management. There's planning, and it's all as you're going through this training curriculum as a scout. So there's conflict resolution. Hey, you guys, you're thrown together in a patrol. There were guys in my patrol I obviously never met before I got there. But I now have a network of them that I can reach out at any time, and then a bunch of them have gone off to do some great things. There are team building where we have to figure things out together. We have to go through coursework and things like that to work through things. There's the basic management and planning stuff. And these are all skills pretty sure we all do in our professional lives and the things we do. Mm-hmm. Right. So this is a training that's not just good for, as an assistant scoutmaster to learn, but it's good for us as professionals, us in our home, in community. I've applied it at home, at work, in Scouts, in my church, in a lot of places because it's that basic universal skill set. So if you want a sales pitch for taking a wood badge, you'll get all that. And then some. Now here's where we go. Here's where we get into the ticket idea. The ticket, you know the history of the ticket and where the ticket came from? Did George talk about that?
There was something about you got to move when you're in the army or something way back when with the British. You got placed in a ticket and you moved from location to location to get back home.
Yeah. So my understanding, I was in World War I at the burgeoning years of the scouting program. The British military was stationed around the world. And when their service was up, it was their responsibility to find their way home. So what they would do is try to get assignments that would position them closer and closer to where they eventually wanted to lead, and they called it their ticket. And what they were doing while they were in active duty was they worked their ticket. That concept has been brought into Wood Badge, where we not only sit there and do all these great exercises and do this team building and hang out in rainstorms and tents and all the things that you do in Scouts, try to cook with foil packs, whole 9 yards, but there's a practical part that comes at the end, and you develop a ticket. And it's a unique, in my opinion, it's a uniqueness that I don't often see in other training. I'm not a professional trainer or anything like that, but in the training that I've taken in the professional world, I haven't seen this type of thing. And what it is, it sets you up to take the lessons you learned, all the experiences you had in this course, give a practical application to it, and have accountability to complete it. And you have 18, you take your ticket, which is a vision. You identify 5 goals that have clear endpoints. You ever hear the acronym of a SMART goal?
Mm-hmm.
It's I forget what the S is now.
Is it simple?
Obviously, it's an oxymoron.
It's
It is. And somebody on the line is probably saying, "You come on!" It's,
we should put the
it's
phone number
measurable,
up just in case someone wants to
actionable,
call in and
relevant,
tell
and
us.
timely.
Right.
But so you find it. Yeah, put the phone number up so you can call me and tell me what the
It'll
S
probably
stands
be
for.
Scott's mother calling
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
There-
So you have these 5 goals that are associated with your ticket that you go off and work to get to completeness, and have a counselor that you're working with during that 18 months to report back on any challenges or troubles you're having, but also as you complete those various goals. And then your counselor signs off at the end, and then you're considered completed wood badge.
Specific,
There it is.
measurable, actionable,
relevant,
and timely.
There you go.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Good, thanks.
Took me a while to bring that back up, but
So it's that whole process is sort of like earning a merit badge, if you will.
Yeah,
Ticket, merit badge are kind of synonymous there.
the ticket is a little more complex, and you get to design it.
Yeah,
You get to develop it.
but you've got to have it signed off on at the end.
It's got to be practical.
Yeah.
And what it does is you take an aspect that you learned in the wood badge course and apply it to your role in scouting. We had folks in my patrol. One guy in particular was operating at the council level, and I can't remember if he was at the time or he became our council leave no trace trainer, and he conducted leave no trace training at our University of Scouting. He goes around to other units and teaches it, and he worked his ticket to help develop that skill set. So we had folks at district level, council level, troop level, wherever they were, but for their particular role, they worked a ticket that had those 5 unique goals they got there. So if you'd like, I'll tell you a little bit about my goal.
I think it'd be great.
Which is what you wanted. So my vision...
You would.
Yeah. So my vision was having a fully functioning, enabled, and empowered boy-led troop.
Right.
Wow.
That's what I'm remembering. Mm-hmm.
That's a vision. I'll show you some pictures. Is that a rainbow you're chasing? Because it's such a vision, you never actually achieve it? Or is it something you think you can achieve? That's why it's a vision. It's something we're striving for.
Right.
But I did have to develop specific, this is for the camera, I'm sure you can read all that, but 5 specific goals that help me push farther towards that vision. So to give you an idea what they were. So that sounds kind of ambiguous. A fully functioning, enabled, and empowered boy-led troop. And by the way, that was noodled through over some time to pick the words, keep it simple, and keep it clean.
And that's the best you could come up with?
That's, sorry. Again, Randy, this was before I knew you. You would have counseled me on that.
You would have wordsmithed it into something horrible.
Oh, definitely.
So the 5 goals that I had were to develop a boy-led troop. And again, I shifted over time to call it scout-led because that became more appropriate because we have young men. They're not really boys, and now we're moving into having females involved as well. So a scout-led troop, but develop a scout-led troop presentation, having materials that I could sit down with not only the adults and the assistant scoutmasters in the troop, but also communicate with the scouts, with the parents, and then wherever else it was useful.
Right.
And I'll tell you where that, in a little bit, I'll tell you where that got some traction after I completed wood badge, which is kind of the point of all this.
Right.
You learn something, you take it back, apply it, and then shape and change something. Second piece was patrol sponsorship. It was trying to get the patrols to have more ownership of their role within the troop.
And that's, I'm going to stop you right there. That's what we have a lot of trouble with.
Right. Mm-hmm. That is tough because especially a lot of the younger scouts, they look to the adult in the tan uniform, and
we have to keep redirecting them to the patrol leader,
right,
and the patrol leader to the SPL. I'm stopping you just to kind of.
So check this out. one of the things, you always get asked these things. So tell me one major memorable thing that you had through Wood Badge. What's one thing that sticks out at you? And there was a moment where I was talking to the guy who's the scoutmaster of the whole thing, and it was during some off time, and I was just chatting with him about how his troop operates. And he said, and he was one of these gray beard kind of guys, been around the block for a while. And he said, like you. He said, you know what I found works? I never answer a question. And I said, what do you mean? So let me give you an example. We're on a camping trip, and a scout comes up to me and says, Mr. Smith, where do we keep the water containers? How would you answer that question if this guy came up and said, you just pulled into camp, it's Friday night, it's dark,
Since
everyone's tired?
you've prepped me already, what I'd want or hope that I would say is, where do you think? But I probably would say
that would be
in the trailer.
That would be the wrong answer. I would say we keep them right next to the left-handed smoke shifters.
Right. So that's why nobody comes and asks questions. So what he said he would do is just what you said, Scott. He would say, so where do we normally keep them? And the scout would say, well, we usually keep them on the trailer. Well, have you looked on the trailer? Are they not on the trailer? Oh, I haven't looked on the trailer. How about you go look on the trailer? So he didn't tell the scout where the water containers were. He walked him through what turns out to be a critical thinking exercise that for a young scout is foreign. They don't even put those two words together. So now he's actually enabling that scout to think through, do some problem solving, and now from now
Great
on,
idea.
whenever
awesome.
that scout wonders where the water containers are,
right?
I know
He's
where
already
they
got
are.
the process.
I got
Right.
it.
That's one of the issues that I have generally with the public school system. I think the public school system feeds our kids lots of information, but doesn't teach them how to think with it and go through that process.
Yep, it can be a tough process. So where have I tried to apply it in our troop?
I don't know. Where have you tried to apply it?
I have tried to, as scouts have come with problems, as they are apt to do. First question is, what did your patrol leader say? Send them back to the chain of command, back, and that does a number of things. It
alienates you to that scout.
Absolutely does. It says, "Oh boy, he's just like Mr. Hardy." No, but it sends a message to that scout that says, "I have the trust in the empowered patrol leader to try to resolve your problem. You don't have to come to me, and you should be going to that patrol leader. Oh, and by the way, someday you're going to be a patrol leader, so watch how that works." So it doesn't always work. I'm not going to say I'm the superstar. Right. It's never perfect. It never always works. But you start to get them to think that way, and they start to go to their patrol leader. And I've had some say, I did go to the patrol leader, and he didn't answer my question, or he didn't resolve the conflict I have with my tent partner. So, okay, where else can you go? Well, I'm coming to you. Well, you're right, but where else can you go? How about your senior patrol, or your senior patrol leader, who's always busy no matter what activity you got going on. But send him that way. And then he goes and he talks to senior patrol leader. And if the senior patrol leader with a little more experience and knowledge in these things can't resolve the thing from the patrol leader, then it can come to the adults.
Right.
But it's got to follow that chain of command. It's got to come up. You can't circumvent that because then you didn't learn anything.
Right.
So a couple other pieces that I worked on were training and responsibilities. I went through this and became a firm believer that if you don't know what your job is, your responsibilities are, and the expectations that are upon you, you have no way of meeting those expectations.
Right.
So I did a whole bunch of research, found some great resources that lay out job descriptions for every function that you can imagine.
Nice.
In Scouts.
We actually, on the troopresource.org page, I started doing that as well. And we've got them posted out there. But if I could see some of the stuff that you had found too, I'd love to post
maybe
Scott
could fix the errors.
So, Randy, I think that may have been some of the stuff that I I packaged up and sent you because what I wanted to show you was I built kind of an org chart. Sounds kind of corny for a Boy Scout troop, but it showed the corresponding roles of the scouts and the adult positions. So you have an adult quartermaster and you have a scout quartermaster. You have, pick your whatever it is. You might have an adult camping coordinator and a scout camping coordinator.
Right.
But they all have roles and responsibilities and functions to perform. And then when you're looking for somebody to replace that camping coordinator, you got a job description and somebody says, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Oh, here's what we need you to do. It's pretty simple. So, sorry I'm not finding it, so we'll have to get it later and I'll get it to you. But
it's fine.
But I do have 2 documents, one for scout positions and one for adult positions.
Right.
I didn't create it. It's not from my brain. It's out there, but I put it in one resource and I offer it to people.
Awesome.
And that's part of the beauty of it is getting it all in one place, because we as leaders, we don't have time to go looking. So it was a great thing you did. And the other reason we're doing this, I think twice, the Wood Badge, is to kind of reinforce it. Because we're going through, and why I brought up that topic about the, we don't always succeed with the boys and getting them to go and ask, is we're going through an ebb now with the troop. And I think we need to get back to the basics where we were. A lot of what you infused in the troop when I joined was working like a well-oiled machine. And now, not so much. And that's
now
because
that you joined, it's not. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, because some of the continuity has gone. The people who were on board.
That's a big word for you.
I know. Did I say it right?
What were you trying to say?
Beep.
But yes, I agree.
So we're revisiting this, and for anybody else who's watching, you will have highs and you'll have lows with your troops. It's normal, and you probably already know that. We're probably preaching to the choir.
Right.
But sometimes you need to go back, circle the wagons, and it's not going to be the same every time, because when I joined, gosh, there were 6 or 7 patrols that had 10 kids in them. Or not 10, I'm sorry, about 7 kids. And now we're all over the place. We have a lot of patrols, but they're unequal. And it's hard when you have unequal patrols. Like my son's patrol, which is kind of going down. And the new patrol that just crossed over. It's really hard to kind of instill a sense of bonding. And
Right. But what you should know is that there are a lot of troops out there that only have 6, 7, 8 scouts. We have 50 plus scouts, and every year when we get crossovers, we'll get 4 crossovers or we get 14 crossovers, and so pairing them up appropriately, keeping them with their friends, making sure that their skill levels and their rank levels remain consistent. It's tough.
And we meet as leaders. Usually, we meet at the committee meeting once a month. And that's not just leaders, that's family. But we get to the meetings every week, and we're talking and throwing ideas back and forth. And that's the key, is to get a bunch of leaders and to get a bunch of adults. Empower them. Don't exclude them. If you exclude them and it's only a couple people, the kids are not going to buy in.
Right. So Todd,
keep going.
Continue.
Sure. So I'll get to the 4th goal of my ticket. Was a skills survey. This is something we haven't really done in our troop, but it was a survey that I found online. Boy Scouts publishes. You get new parents coming in as you get Weeblos crossing over or new Scouts join your troop, and the parents kind of sit in the corner because they see these guys dressed in khaki, and you may find it hard to believe, but some folks walk in and think we know what we're doing, and they don't want to interrupt. They don't feel like they have a role to play. They don't feel like they have anything to offer. So I tried a little bit, but it's something you can resurrect at any time. Give me this skills survey, if you will. What kinds of things are you interested in? Do you have a pickup truck? with a tow hitch on it.
Right.
You know, those kinds of things. And
With a Class 3 hitch.
well, it depends what kind of troop you got. But you're right. What
You're
is
ringing.
that your boy calling you?
Make sure that they're not saying that we
You
dropped
know,
off the face of
that's
the
number
earth.
2. So a skills survey allows you to engage those folks on a simplistic
Right.
level. What types of things they have an interest in. We're not talking about making them scoutmasters. They don't have to have scouting experience, nothing. But now that you have them fill out a survey, they may have an interest in one area that you had no idea.
Right, that's true.
You know, you might have somebody shows up, drops their son off in a suit and tie, and you're like, I don't do this outdoor stuff.
Right.
Oh, but what do you do? Oh, I'm in finance. I work in a bank. Really?
Personal finance.
We have
Gosh,
MER
we need a
badges.
treasurer, you know, or-
Right. There's a role.
Right.
There's a role to play, and a survey allows you to do that. But the intention of why it fell into this ticket was that the idea was all those surveys now can get turned over to the scouts as they're planning meetings, they're planning activities, they're planning how to do
That's a
merit
great
badges.
idea because
Right.
I thought, just by what you were saying, it was going to offload more work on all of us ASMs to go through them and whatever.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
And they sit at a PLC meeting and they thumb through. Hey, Mr. Jones knows how to do welding. I wonder if he'd be has to
Right.
come and do welding.
Right.
Whatever, make up your
Sure.
thing. But now that gives them more resources, more
Right.
ideas, more opportunities to do great things.
That's a great idea.
Right. The last piece.
But before we go on
Sure.
different, one of the things that for other people who are out there watching is I put together a list of 3x5 cards. You know, there's always the thought that every leader ought to carry a pack of 3x5 cards in their back pocket that lists all the things that we need, or at least a number of things that we need. Like we need someone with a truck to drive, and we need someone to teach this merit badge, and we need someone to help out with the swimming tests and all those kinds of things.
This is the electronic age, Scott. So you,
Right. Well, the
you
thing
could
is,
replace those 3x5 cards with the Palm Pilot.
yeah, exactly. So emails don't work. It's
No.
got to be a face-to-face ask.
Yeah.
And often when you get the crossover parents, they come through, they will ask you after 2 or 3 weeks of attending, is there anything I can do? And if you've got these cards in your back pocket, you can say, why don't you look through these and see if any of these match your skill set? I like the survey as well because then that brings it to the scout level and making them make decisions. But it's another way of trying to get volunteers in.
So one of the earlier roles I had in Scouts was as a Cub Master, the Cub Pack. And I thought it would be real cool to hang at the beginning of one of the years. I got this big cork board and put like help wanted things up, looking
Right.
for people to, some job descriptions that we kind of wrote up. Do you know how many were left on that board at the end of that first meeting?
Mm-mm.
Every single one of them. Nobody took a single thing.
Right.
Nobody had an interest. And it's a human nature. I'm not knocking any of the parents at all because I was on that side as well. You want to be invited in.
Right.
Folks don't want to encroach. They don't want to feel like they're imposing, and they don't want to, generally don't want to come in unless they have a big ego or something. They don't want to come in and say like they're taking things over. Well, that's why we have Randy. We got every troop's got to have a Randy. But by doing the survey, it's kind of an innocuous thing. Hey, here it is. Fill it out
Right.
and give it back when you're done.
Right.
Take it home. Think about
Right.
it. Whatever.
Right.
That's cool.
Well, it's
put
especially
your
good
spouse's name down.
if the scouts are then working on it. Then it's the scout asking. That's a whole different thing than an adult asking.
Absolutely. So, let me get to the last piece of my ticket. Every ticket has, one of the goals has to be an inter-troop type of activity. You have to have some way of broadening outside of your comfort zone and doing that. The troop that I was in, not our troop, but the troop I was in at the time that I went through this, we were at a summer camp up in New York. I reached out to the camp, asked them what other troops were going to be in camp at the same time I was, got email addresses, reached out to them and said, hey, I want to do this inter-troop activity to talk about and to propel this scout-led troop idea into other troops. And I had this thing, actually, you talk about 3x5 cards. One of the things I had was 3x5 contact cards for the scouts, and they shared. And we had it got to be kind of corny. There's things are apt to do. But we had these boys talking to boys that they never would have met.
Right.
And they may have crossed paths in a merit badge at summer camp for an hour. And if they clicked, that was great. But chances are they wouldn't. I've seen it. It just doesn't happen. So we forced it. And then we as leaders had an opportunity. We made connections with folks from another council. And then you start talking. And every conversation you get a little nugget out of something. So that's my ticket. Those are my 5 goals in there. And now I'll tell you what happened after this was done. And thankfully I was successful and I did complete all those things to the satisfaction of my counselor. And I had what's called I have to say this carefully because Randy's here.
Oh, okay.
It's a beading ceremony.
Okay.
Not a beating ceremony because I figured he would get to that. So you get beads. When you complete the course, you get a ceremony, you get beads. You may have seen me wear them. There's a leather.
Sure, the leather.
There's a couple of things on them. You go through the course, you get 2. If you participate on staff in a course, you get a 3rd one to add. And if you're leading the course as the scoutmaster of the course, you get a 4th one. So if you ever see guys or gals, because there were women in our course as well, wearing those beads, you can tell what their role has been associated with Wood Badge.
Okay.
Unless you're like me and you get yours on eBay, which is where I got.
You could probably do that, yeah. So, what did I do when it was
get
done?
anything on eBay.
Yeah, you could. So, Randy and Scott, I'm glad you invited me to do this because this has sparked all the stuff is flooding back. Some of this has kind of stayed with me, but now as I've reviewed a bunch of my materials for this, there's a lot of application that we can use. And Randy, to your point, what can we do in our troop to spark things up? There's some stuff here. There's some goodness in here that we can figure out. One of the things I did when it was done, I finished the course. I got all that. My counselor was involved in our local council's University of Scouting, and I'm not sure if that's a universal thing, but it's adult training opportunities that we offer. Very good and very well run for our council here, Cradle of Liberty, to give a plug. But what I was asked to do by my counselor, my Wood Badge counselor, was, and he just drew me right in. He said, "Hey Todd, you put a presentation together and you got some good stuff. It'd be a shame to let it die. Would you be willing to team and we'll teach a scout-led, a boy-led troop concept as one of the courses at University of Scouting?" And we did for 2 years, and then he politely stepped aside, and I kept going for a couple more. The last couple of years, my schedule didn't allow me to do it. But so I have all these great materials. I show up at this thing and try to cram into the 45 minutes or an hour of a training class. These adults are like, "Yeah, what is this boy-led troop, scout-led troop?" And I said, "How much time you got?"
Right.
So we try to go through a lot of things. I try to tie the concept of a scout-led troop to the aims of scouting and the goals of scouting. I have some scenarios that are corny, but I get 2 people to stand up and say, you read person number 1 and you read person number 2, and then I ask the people, what did you see? And it's an over-exaggeration of a very overbearing scoutmaster and a just a withered scout when the scout says, "Hey, where can I find the water containers?"
Right.
"Don't you know where we keep the water containers? No, we keep them on the trailer. Now go get them, man." No, and then there's a second one. I get 2 other people to come up, and it's a very different approach. And it gets back to that asking a question. "Hey, where do we keep the containers?"
Right.
"Well, where do we normally keep them?" And it starts walking through all that.
Right.
I've had folks sit in on, some folks, hate it and say, "I'm never coming back to this again." But other folks say, "This is really great. Can you?" But where can I get more information?
Yeah.
I've morphed the presentation materials over time and all the references over time. I don't have any kind of web page or anything like it, but they're all out there. They're all out there.
If you want to share some on the troop resource page, I'd love to post them.
Get it up there.
Great.
I'd be happy to. We can figure out how to do that.
All kidding aside, it works. It really does work. We have a great troop. I can't tell you enough how impressed I was when I first came to this troop about how well it was organized and led. It still is. It's all troops again are going to change. They're going to morph over time.
Right. It's cyclical.
It's cyclical. You get good scout leaders, youth leaders, and you get okay youth leaders. And we are at the point where we need another great leader. And I don't want to mention any names or put anybody on the spot, but we've had a couple in our tenure there that were just great, absolutely great. And so the point is, get it on the website, read it, absorb it. It works. It's not going to work every time, but the basic principle. If you buy into it, the kids are going to buy into it, and they do.
So one of the things we absolutely failed to mention at the beginning of this, which is a key component of the success of any of this idea,
You
failed because we didn't know anything about this, right? We've never done wood badge.
No, but there's a corresponding course for the youth, and it's called NYLT.
Okay.
National
Oh yes,
Youth Leadership
we had a show
Training.
on that.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and the model is you send your scout leaders through NYLT. They do virtually the same curriculum. They learn the same conflict resolution things, the same management, the same planning, all those same ideas. And then you take your assistant scoutmasters and have a few of them run through. Now they're talking the same leadership language.
Right.
And that is extremely powerful. Then you go to your senior patrol leader and say, hey, dudette, we're going to be running problems through you. You don't have to solve them all, but you need to know they're coming to you first. This is your troop. You set the tone. You set the direction. You set the vision. You establish where you want this to be. You put your fingerprint on this troop while you're in control. We're here to help you. We're not here to run it for you.
Right.
We'll get you to camping trips. We'll get you in the cars. We'll do all that. But this is your troop. That's very, very daunting to a young person. And that goes back to my question to you guys. The first question I had to you. How would you teach somebody a skill that you had no idea about? So if you're putting young people in positions of leadership that have never been taught leadership, what do we expect of them?
Right.
How can we expect anything more than nothing if we've never told them what's expected of them?
Right.
So if they're able to go to NYLT, National Youth Leadership Training, and we have adults who've gone to Wood Badge, regardless of the ticket that you come up with, that just this just happened to be mine. But now you have those two there.
Well, it's interesting you mention that because as we change the SPL and ASPLs in our troop, the way that they have been taught leadership is by the scouts ahead of them. And as you know, there's always sort of knowledge leakage when that happens, and a particular scout will lead to the best of his or her ability, and the person that comes up behind them, seeing them, only learns a portion of that. And then the one that comes behind them only learns a portion of that. And it really would be a good thing to sort of beef that back up again.
There's one thing I have tried to do with every new senior patrol leader right after he gets elected in. I walk up to him and say, this is your troop. You're in control. You will set the tone at your first meeting. I highly encourage you to stand up in front of the meeting and put the scout sign up and stand there. How often do we see signs up, quiet, pull in? I said, don't do that. Set a different tone. Walk up there and see what happens. And it happened at a meeting a couple months ago where the scouts were trying to get themselves together, and I walked up to the senior patrol and I said, guys, just stand here. Don't say anything. Stand here in line with the sign up. Watch what happens. Boom. All of a sudden, it worked the way it's supposed to. The guys started seeing what was going on. They started falling in line. They started figuring out what they needed to do. That starts to create a culture.
It's true. It's really very, very interesting how it works.
Right. So we've had a number of senior patrol leaders, they all have their own personalities, their own traits. We've had a bunch of very, very capable guys who want to have no parts of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
They're the challenges.
Yeah.
They have great skills, great charisma, great knowledge of the program, great influence, but they don't want to use it. Use your power for good. So that's
Awesome.
a challenge. So anyway, I will be happy to provide on
Great.
the website or
troopresource.org.
all the resources you guys want. Everything I got can get there. My presentation
Awesome.
materials. It's not copyrighted. My name's on it. So my email is on there. People can send me stuff. People can take it and use it in their own, whatever they want to do with it.
That's exactly what Troop Resource is all about. Just sharing the resources out there and letting them self-propagate, across the nation.
Fair enough.
So, any last thoughts?
Regardless of anybody's feeling on a scout-led troop, it's corny, it doesn't work, we got to go back to the old... That was my ticket.
It works. It
My
works
point-
for us.
It works. It works
Right.
for us.
My point, what I would want to get across here tonight with this is Wood Badge in general gives you those universal leadership skills that apply everywhere. And it's got the uniquenesses of walking through a program that you're familiar with because you're a scouter, walking you through proven and professional types of elements and leadership experiences, and I think George talked about the last time, that are found in professional training seminars that you get with the benefit of camping in the rain or wherever you happen to be. But you get that stuff with the program. You get the camaraderie of fellow scouters. It's not often you're in a forum where people are all like-minded individuals. They'll have uniquenesses, but they're like-minded.
Right.
And they're there for a purpose. And we're there to teach and to train and educate and lead the next generation of people coming up behind us. So you get in a group like that, man, that is powerful. You get the practical application of working on something that you learned during the course, taking it back to your unique role that you're filling wherever you are, and developing a ticket that helps you in your position. You'd be probably hard-pressed to find a training opportunity that you guys have at work that does that. It really doesn't. It says, oh, here's how to learn Excel.
Right.
Go, but
That's
what
right.
do you do with it?
Right.
And
Very little accountability afterwards.
Well, and that was the last part I was going to make. Because this has a counselor associated with it that every Wood Badge participant gets connected with coming through it, you have an accountability partner. Somebody's not there riding herd over you and poking you, but there to help you, there to encourage you, there to get you to that end state. That's 18 months later, and if you don't do it, here's the difference between Wood Badge and scouting program. After that 18 months, if you didn't do it, that's okay. You just kind of wait. I don't know if they changed the rules, but when I went through it, you just wait a year or so, and you can go back and do it again if life circumstances don't allow you to finish the program. It's not a one. It's not your
Not
last,
one and done.
It's not your last shot. You get
Okay.
a chance to come back and do it.
It's like a merit badge, right?
Right.
You get a partial,
But,
you come back later. And,
well, you got to start over. I don't know if
Okay.
they changed the rules because they are changing the format.
okay.
Because it is a time commitment. There's 2 weekends of camping that you're off doing this stuff. Plus, in between those 2 weekends, you're working with your patrol, having patrol meetings, which patrols are supposed to be doing between troop meetings. And then when
Right.
you finish that, you go off and you work your ticket. But there's a lot of accountability. You meet some great people. You've now developed friendships that carry on, and you run into people at scouting events. It's really cool. So I would just encourage folks to take it. Sounds like a lot of money, a couple $100, but for what you get out of it, you can't find a better value anywhere.
Awesome.
And you could probably get a really good price on Kayak or Priceline.com for your ticket. Right?
Okay. So, that said, thank you, Todd, very much. It was
quite welcome.
awesome having you here. And Randy, always having your comic relief is fantastic as well. For
I
all of
don't
our
think Todd feels that way.
for all of our Viewers out there, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you the second Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for our live broadcast. We also post this an edited version out on our YouTube page, so if you're watching this now, you know where that is. And
remember out there, like we always say,
we always have technical difficulties every single show. There's our technical difficulty tonight, right there. And go visit our webpage, which is www.troopresource.org. So until next time, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
TroopResource.org, trying to put 1,000 skills into every troop's backpack.